My name is Janice B. Gordon, and this is Scale Your Sales Podcast. Welcome to Scale Your Sales Podcast, listed number 9 of 43 podcasts for every sales professional. I am Janice B. Gordon, the customer growth expert, awarded RevTech Strategist of 2024. In today's episode of Scale Your Sales Podcast, my guest talks about the pros and cons of either bootstrapping or going VC backed. He's got lots of experience and history of doing both, and quite eloquently shared his experiences of the many organizations he has grown and founded. So it's really useful experience for any founder that's looking at both options. We then went on to talk about consolidating the tech stack and the leveraging the experience of, hub and spoke and different options that are available. And the insights just kept rolling on and continuing, talking about the GTM motion, the evolving role of GTM. And he stated that the GTM role is challenging, particularly in this environment, but came up with lots of strategies that will help all founders, all GTM leaders to go forward in 2025. My next guest is a founder and CEO of SalesIntel, a company committed to providing the highest quality B2B contact data in the market. SalesIntel's research team hand-verifies every contact to ensure 95% accuracy on data. As the CEO, he drives the strategic vision and establish and fosters key partnerships and is building out the executive team that will make SalesIntel the leader of the data sector. Welcome to Scale Your Sales Podcast, Manoj Ramnani.
Thank you for having me, Janice, on your podcast.
Well, it's a pleasure, and thank you so much for hosting me on your podcast. And I'm listed as one of the top 100 and also top 300 of the pipeline heroes, I'd like to call them. And we're going to be talking about this on the podcast. So it's fantastic having you here. So the way that I would like to start this is really kind of like using your background as the foundation. You've previously founded and grown businesses in healthcare, e-learning, and federal verticals. So how do you make the decision between bootstrapping a business and CV backed? What are the kind of fundamentals? Because I know you've got a history of both.
Yeah. I as you grow older, you you learn from your experiences and go a little smarter with every year, hopefully. So my very first business was in the federal space, bootstrapped. We did well. My second business was in the education space. We did well there. And my third business was in the consumer tech space. I was trying to build like a Facebook of the world, LinkedIn of the world. Circleback was the name of the company. And while the concept was great, and we raised a lot of money, we raised $30 million of VC money, and nobody made any money, right? Our investors didn't make money, I didn't make money, team didn't make money. And it was a brutal experience. Nobody's fault. There are many factors that were involved, from business model to product market fit to the location where we started the consumer tech company in DC versus in the Silicon Valley. So there were many factors that led to the unsuccessful outcome. So when I started SalesIntel, I was like, there is a point in time where the VC money is helpful. And prior to that, if you raise money, you lose your discipline, and nobody actually enjoys the experience, right, of the boardroom. So in this company, we knew exactly where the market was because Circleback used to service as a wholesaler of data to some of the sales and revenue intelligence players. So we knew where the market is. We didn't have to prove out a product market fit per se. We just had to figure out, can we profitably grow this business or not, right? And once we got profitable growth of the business, we did bring some friends and family, very friendly money into the business. I put my own money in here, but that was a thesis that, we want to grow a sustainable business versus go after this whole VC game and see who can raise more money. And look at what's happening in today's world. All those companies that have raised so much money, they can't clear their preference stack, right? So the teams are not going to make, founders are not going to make any money. And even VCs, they are frustrated with the outcomes.
So, it's interesting that the timing was absolutely right for the choice that you made in growing this business, SalesIntel. And do you ever look back and think, oh, thank God I made that choice? Thankfully, I'm not, kind of under pressure like all of these. Do you ever, are you the kind of person that does look back and
you always reflect on your past decisions. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good. And hindsight is always 20/20, right? So all you can do is learn from them. So yeah, we made our fair share of mistakes and over investing in sales during the crazy times when everybody else was, although the unit economics weren't quite there. So that was a miss. But at the same time, we didn't go crazy and raise 50, 100, $200 million, although we had all those options available to us, but we were disciplined. So I think that was the right decision.
So do you think, forget about the environment we're in, but let's say in an ideal world, do you think that the growth in SalesIntel would have doubled had you had investment, or it wouldn't have really made any difference? If in a flat market, it wouldn't have made any difference.
I don't think it would have made much of a difference.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. I think that the right companies to raise large amount of money are the ones who have just figured out the escape velocity, right? And they need fuel. So think in today's environment, the companies that are raising money, this is your OpenAI, right? They have, or a $2 billion ARR right now, because there's a race for the AI. And the hardware that they need, the GPU that they need, that compute is very, very expensive. So when you see them raising that money, or Elon Musk's AI company, X.AI, raising money, or Perplexity raising money, I think those companies have figured out the product market fit. They have achieved escape velocity. Now it's a race to be who's going to be the number one, right? At a smaller scale, in each industry, you see the companies, the opportunities present themselves. Then it makes sense to raise money. But prior to that, raising big round of capital, just because the money was available, back then, I don't think that's a prudent choice.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think useful for founders going forward, looking at the reason why they're raising money, not just because it's there, and raising it at the right point as well. So that's really useful. So we've come out of an environment, or we're coming out of an environment where we've been growth at all costs, and the sales stack has been enormous, and to the extent that only really a small percentage of usage or have we seen in all of these different so-called enablers. So we're not really utilizing the sales stack, and there certainly hasn't been the integration in the past. So how do you consolidate? We're in an era of consolidation now. So how do you consolidate the MarTech and sales stack going forward?
Yeah. So good question, Janice. Here's what I believe. I think companies that have stayed disciplined and have provided value to the customers, they have earned the right to renew them and have an opportunity to expand their business, right? If they have good teams that are committed to the mission, then we are going to see the clusters form within the entire GTM space. There's going to be a cluster of companies that will do end-to-end pipeline generation, right? Then there'll be a cluster of companies or a solution, if you will, that do pipeline progression, right? And then there's a cluster of companies that do, customer success, account management, and renewal. Today, what we see is in each of this phase of marketing funnel, sales funnel, and the post-sales funnel, there are hundreds of companies that are providing these point solutions. And I think that's what we're going to see, the consolidation of this point solution in phases of the pipeline. That's my thesis. And the companies that have built their platform, which is open, which is scalable, and have earned the right and the trust of the customers are the ones who are going to be the consolidators, right? And the companies that have not over-leveraged themselves by raising so much money that their VCs have to come out at all cost, right? So I think those are the characteristics that you look for, right? Solid platform, committed teams, not over leverage financially, right? And some innovation where the same point solutions that were good 5 years ago, I think with the AI and the new technologies, can you bring innovation and bolt on to the existing solution that you have to provide a consolidated solution to the end customer?
It's almost like the airlines where you had the kind of point solutions and the kind of like hub and spoke and everything. And I'm thinking, while you were talking, I was thinking of, are we going to go to a stage or phase where we have like 5 big players, so you've got like the Salesforce, it's an open network. Will you have, say, 5 of those that are competing across the board, so that we're going from having remember that diagram of the sales stack, and there were hundreds of there. We've all seen it. It was ridiculous to actually have coming down to 5 main players. So there's a lot less competition. Do you see a stage where that may be the case? You may be a smaller player, but you have to be on a bigger platform in order to get reach.
Yeah. So Salesforce, one of the good thing, inherently Salesforce is a system of record, right? And once you're a system of record, once you get into a customer site, you are there. Unless you screw up majorly, you're there to stay. One of the brilliant strategies Salesforce did, and kudos to Benioff, is he made the system very open, right? And that allowed him to have other solution integrated and to the main CRM system. And second, when he saw the adjacent opportunities, whether it's marketing system or CPQ, he kept acquiring those companies to make a complete solution. And that's the reason why Salesforce, even in the down market, Salesforce stock keeps going up. You saw the earnings came out yesterday. They did phenomenal again. And I think that's a company that's going to continue to do well. So at a smaller scale, I think there is the same story waiting to be repeated, like the same play waiting to be replayed here in the pipeline generation space, where we play in the pipeline progression space, where many other companies that do from pipeline. Once a deal is won, from pipeline management, once the lead has come in, from there to closure, and then from closure to customer support and success.
Yeah, interesting. It's exciting times. Are you excited by it or not?
There's a lot of things to be excited about. AI is everywhere. That is making us more efficient. The macroeconomic conditions, seem to be improving. So there's a lot of enthusiasm. There's a lot of optimism in the air, at least on this side of the pond. At the same time, there's some nervousness. The new administration in DC. I believe that they're going to bring a lot of efficiency. If you keep the politics side out, right, they're going to bring a lot of efficiency. They are going to be pro-business, and the interest rates are going to come under control. The inflation is going to come under control. And as a result of that, the money managers that have been sitting on the fences, right, they're going to see a pro-business environment. And once this engine starts to work, where they deploy money in up-and-coming companies, or the M&A engine starts to come again, I think we will see the positive outcome for all SaaS companies in our space.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So the money's going to be switched on coming forward. We're going to see economic stability, inflation leveling off. So, you know, we're not going to have the feast and famine. And it's almost like a reset then, isn't it? But there's still challenges within the involving GTM space and role. And what do you see are the challenges going forward?
Yeah. So look, GTM is hard. GTM is hard. And so you know, there's so many challenges to talk about. Let's just pick a couple of them. I think most of the companies that have the struggle to acquire efficiently, they forget to invest in the product. And then they just go right to the market. There's no differentiations in the product. So I think that's one fundamental thing before even you define.
So what do you mean they forget to invest in the project, in the product? They launch a product and it doesn't evolve with the customer. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So if you look at the products that are coming out, or products that exist in the B2B space, either they are point solutions, right? In which case the customer is already inundated with point solutions, right? Or second, there's no clear differentiation between one product or the second, and that just leaves customer confused, and the sales cycles just keep dragging on. So GTM founders need to really think about the product innovation and the value that product provides to the organization versus just one more features. So I think that's one challenge that we see. The second challenge is providing an authentic sales experience to the customer, right? And let the buyer finish as much of the journey as buyer wants to before you get the salesperson involved, right? I think we are still making the same mistakes where we are in 2025 and we are playing the playbook of 2020, 2021, where it's all sales-led motion, sales-led motion, sales-led motion, right? And I've seen that in my pennies, some of the smart go-to-market professionals are starting to recognize, hey, I don't want to put my pennies in sales and marketing. Let me put my pennies in community. Let me put my pennies in events, right? Let me put my community in thought leadership, right? Where I assist the customer. Because what has happened, Janice, in sales and marketing led motions is everybody knows that I'm in a cadence, right? So if I get the 6th email, 7th email, we are all getting numb to emails, phone calls. So those things are not working. What's working and what's going to work is the authentic relationship with the customer, right? And letting the buyer buy on its own terms versus dictating our terms on them through a hard sale and marketing led motions.
So you've talked about two areas here, and I just want to go back to the first one that you mentioned. So talking about the I've just lost my train of thought then. Oh my gosh, the first one that you mentioned. Oh my gosh, what was that? I've lost completely. Too many podcast recordings. I've completely lost it. It's on the tip of my tongue. Yeah. What was the first one that you mentioned?
Yeah, I think it's letting the buyer buy on his own terms.
Right, that's it. That's right. So we know that we've moved. I'll cut that bit. We know that we've moved more to where the buyer wants to self-service, even in the B2B world. And you said you've got to let the buyer complete as much as a journey as they want to complete. Where's sales is being squeezed out? So we've got marketing and then we've got customer success. Where is sales in this? It's really been squeezed out in this journey. So how are GTM leaders going to be reconciling this when sales is being squeezed out by the buyers because they don't want to engage and they want to do as much of the journey themselves? How can we reconcile that?
Yeah. I think sales, I wouldn't say they are being squeezed. I think sales is being elevated. right? Sales is being elevated, where the role of a salesperson is a trusted advisor. So when the customer is ready, when the buyer is ready to buy, you better know your stuff. You better know your stuff, your industry, your product, the competitive landscape. Once you understand that, then you're going to earn the buyer's respect, right? Versus trying to, sell that next feature versus selling on the value.
Yeah, yeah. And then you also talked about how there's products are becoming are not as innovative as they should be. And it seems like there's part of the problem is in the feedback systems are not in place, that we're getting information back to the customer. Because my view is that customers are your best innovators and creators. And they're the ones that help to innovate the product rather than the product development. So I would surmise that actually it's all in the feedback loop. This is why we have a product, we're selling a product, and it becomes our cash cow, and we become very lazy because we don't really have enough feedback from the customers to where we should go next. I don't know if you would agree with that, or would you say in terms of product development and iteration and innovation, are there other mechanisms that GTM leaders should be looking at in order to continue to innovate the products?
Yeah, I think involving the product leader as part of the go-to-market leadership is where the magic happens, right? So many times your product leaders are disconnected with the go-to-market teams, right? So they don't have the benefit of getting that feedback loop. I believe, and we practice here at SalesIntel, that your product leader has to be an integral part of your go-to-market motion. And then second, your product leader has to have as many interactions and conversations with customers as possible, whether they are talking to customers, prospects at the late stage before they sign up, or after the customer has signed and they are happy or they're not happy. In all cases, you need your product leadership to get that first-hand experience if you want to really solve for the customer.
So are you saying that the reason why the products are not being innovated is because there is this structure, internal structure, that the product leader isn't close enough to the go-to-market motion, that they're not sitting with them, and so that information isn't being communicated? Is it to do with the way that the organizations structure themselves?
Yeah, I think it's the way GTM is structured, and disproportionate amount of investment is being put on GTM ahead of product innovation, right? And that's why we saw so much of wastage, right? So much of wastage when the BDRs are reaching out, marketing is reaching out, the AEs are reaching out, you get the demo, and the customer is not wowed by the demo, by the experience, by the value that you're providing it, right? So all of a sudden now you've wasted so much time. Whereas if your product was wow, then your customers will become a champion. They say, well, we just purchased SalesIntel and we love this because it does X, Y, and Z and provides us real value.
Yeah, yeah. Well, talking about SalesIntel, I'd really like you to explain there's lots of points of difference, but one of the key points of difference is the human verified data. So talk to me more about that.
Yeah, so Janice, we play in the pipeline generation cluster, if you will, on the go-to-market. Our promise to the customer is we are going to provide you data, intelligence, strategy to define who your ICP is, and then execution platform to reach out to those prospects. And our delivery is going to be a call it marketing qualified lead. Your pipeline, right? So when you look at that promise that we are making to our customers, the key component of that is data. Data as intelligence, right? And market is flooded with poor quality data. And that's where, when I started a company 6 years ago, that was the premise that, quality in everything we do, we want to make sure that we put the quality first for the customer in product as well as in data. And when you look at the data, when these machine learning pipelines, AI pipelines, they process the data, the end result of that is somewhere 70, 80%. Machines have not gotten to a point where they provide B2B data with the highest accuracy. So what do? Right? You have an option to give the data to the customer, and many companies do that, right? Or you truly put a human in the loop and make sure that the data is cleansed, validated, and when the customer gets it, we give 95% accuracy SLA, right? And our customers respect that, they enjoy it, right? And we see the growth come in as a result of that, right? So the human verification is truly a human going in and validating that the data that we are giving to the customer is accurate, because we take this responsibility very seriously, that we are responsible to generate a pipeline for our customer that ultimately is going to feed and be responsible for the growth of their business.
Yeah, yeah. So then talk to me about how AI has helped to evolve the product and the service that you offer customers.
Yeah. So, we use AI on two different layers. One on the data side. We've been using AI before AI was a thing, right? Right now, last 4 years, AI has become everywhere. If you look at some of my patents, from a decade ago, we are using AI and machine learning algorithm to process the data, right? So on that layer, what has happened is earlier we used to invest 40%, right? Because the machines were only smart enough to get 60% accurate data. Now we are getting machine to process data with much better accuracy, right? So our work has reduced significantly because AI is helping us there. The second area where we use AI is the front end of the user experience, how our customer interacts with it, right? There, we have Gen AI. You can instead of going and selecting everything, you can write a text and say, give me VPs of engineering in Northern Virginia, right? Versus going to location filter and job title filter. So we have made that part easier. We are bringing a lot more innovation here with agentic AI, where these agents will be working behind the scene, round the clock, and looking for the signals that will help you generate your pipeline, right? So I'm excited about bringing those agentic AI for our customers in the coming weeks. We are going to be making some big announcements on that front.
So how do you teach teams on what data to look for and how to leverage it?
Yeah, so it's the signals, right? The foundational data is available. It's firmographic, it's technographic, it's intent, it's your news, it's your contact data, decision makers' contact data. So we have those. We help our customers. When we onboard a customer, we help them with a strategic session where we walk them through what we call the ICP intel, right? Figuring out who's your ICP, where should you focus your go-to-market resources, right? Because we all have limited resources. If you focus in the area where you have the best chance of winning, then the efficiency of your go-to-market investment is going to be very high, right? So we sit down with them and truly help them figure out who's their ICP and who are their buying centers. Once we help them with that, then it's all about identifying the signals that are coming out of those ICP prospects that tell them, what, this customer may be in market. So those are the signals. We look for intent. We have a great partnership with Bambora. We have our own predictive intent. We look at who's visiting your website, right? The web visitor. We look for the buying alerts, right? The 31 different type of alerts that we have. Somebody just got funding, or there's an M&A, or somebody just hired somebody. The job change alerts, your champions are moving from one company to other. So there are a variety of signals that we help our customers look at. And this is where we are bringing the AI, where the agentic AI, the agents will be working behind the scene, listening to these signals and bringing the qualified leads for our customers.
Yeah. Manoj, I'm really curious as to your background. Where did you come from? Because you're techie, you're nerdy, but you're very humanistic as well. How did all that come about? What was your primary subject that you studied, and your perspective? How did that evolved over the years?
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. You're very kind, Janice. So look, I came from India 27 years ago. So it's been a long time. I've been here in DC. I went to school at GW. I studied engineering. I'm an engineering student. And my very first company, out of the college, I did an engineering job. I was writing software. My very first company was bringing efficiency, in the federal government by providing them, software development services. And then, same thing. Then I had a product company in the education space. How I got to SalesIntel, helping go-to-market teams be more efficient, was actually not very deliberated, right? I started a company named Circleback, which did not work out in its format. We were trying to solve relationship problem, the professional relationship problem. You look at your LinkedIn connections, every second degree connection looks the same. There's no value in there. And then you look at your first degree connection and you have no idea, where did I meet this person, right? And then your address book is a mess. So we were trying to solve that problem to keep your context clean, complete, up to date in your address book. And we saw the data that we were collecting was in demand by B2B companies. We were wholesalers for some time, and then we realized that, there's not good quality data available in the market. We saw this as an opportunity and started SalesIntel as a B2B company. So that's my history and my background.
But I see you a lot online, and you're very community spirited. You uplift, a lot of people. And so, if you have someone that's engineering, analytical, then often, they may be more introverted and not want to put themselves out there. You're very much forward in face of the organization. So the kind of two things, how do they balance out one another?
Yeah. I still love my engineering roots and love to write the programs. Now I have much smarter people than me that are writing the software. So I get to write software with my son and do some of the POCs for the company. But my being out there in the community comes from a simple philosophy. When you give to the community what it's just a philosophy of paying forward, right? The goodness comes to you. So you don't go out to the community to just ask, right? If you keep giving, the goodness will just come to you. That's my philosophy, and I enjoy these podcasts. I enjoy interacting with the folks that are out there trying to solve the same problems, trying to go after the similar opportunities and being helpful.
Yeah, well, you're certainly that. So what advice, in the spirit of giving, what advice would you give a founder CEO to create a roadmap for revenue growth in 2025?
Yeah. So, look, these are tough times. These are tough times. If you're starting a company in 2025, or you have already started a company and you're going to go to market, the foundational thing, very foundational thing is make sure you have a strong product and you're giving 10 times value to your customers than you're charging. So if your software costs $10,000 to the customer, let's make sure that you have a demonstrable value of $100,000 for the customer, right? So that's at the foundation. Once you have that, then it's all about how do you efficiently go to market, right? We have shared our study, right, with the 100 go-to-market leaders that have come in last year. Where are they putting their pennies? So, market shifts. It's a very dynamic market. Market shifts. What we are seeing in the current market is, it's events, because the personal connection, you meet with folks, you shake hands, right? It's being part of the community. It's social, right? Which is part of the community, and it's partnerships. So if you can, look at those 3 or 4 and see if your product you're offering is a fit for those channels, I would say focus more on those channels and less on just spending money, because this is not a time of growth at all cost. And then the third advice I would have is look for the unit economics, right, early on, and not only to acquire the customer, but the complete lifetime value of a customer, because anybody can go get a customer, because all the founders, they have so much energy, says network, enthusiasm, they can go get the customer, but can you retain the customer, right? So make sure that that you are getting the customer, provide them enough value so that they can renew with you.
Excellent, excellent. So my last question is, you've mentioned some of your kind of like personal perspective and how you use that in business, being very giving. So what other personal value or belief has really shaped your approach to leadership?
Yeah, building companies is a team sport. That's what we say at SalesIntel, and we live it. I've been very fortunate that lots of my team members have with me, for the second time, some of them third time around. It helps. It helps because a lot of time, you are all human beings. You try to understand each other's style of working, which is much more complex than working with the computers. Look, I'm still learning, but the few learnings that I have is, you lead by example. You treat your people well, and you provide them an environment where they thrive. Not to say that you'll be easy, right? Because your job as a founder, as a CEO, is to push the limits, right? Make your people, enable your people to do things that they didn't think was possible, because then you get different type of respect from them, right? And if they break, then you know what? They were not the right people to begin with, right? If they break and leave just because you're pushing the boundaries, then that's not the team that you want. What I realize is people appreciate that style, and they do well in my companies, and they come back when I start my next company.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your experience. How can listeners get hold of you?
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Connect with me. That's the main place. Email is flooded, so I just want to be respectful of my inbox here. But yeah, LinkedIn is the best way to follow me and connect with me.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on Scale Your Sales podcast, and thank you for sharing all of your insights and experience, Manoj.
Thank you so much, Janice. I really enjoyed it.
If you enjoy this episode of Scale Your Sales podcast, explore other episodes of insightful guest conversations or watch the caption show on YouTube. Remember to subscribe so you never miss an episode filled with strategies to help you scale your sales. I love to hear your thoughts, so please share your views and leave a review on iTunes. It helps us reach more revenue generators just like you. So until next time, keep scaling your sales.